Good afternoon, everyone. This is September 17th, 2020, and this is the bi-weekly HamSCI Telecon. I'm Nathaniel, W2NAF, and this past week, I, along with many other people, have participated in the Taproot DCC virtually, which I believe went very well. I enjoyed it quite a bit, and have continued working on just moving things along forward with the project. I've been doing some data analysis, and Scotty, I did start the process of trying to do the rebudget to make sure we can get the magnetometer and other things, done correctly. So why don't we go? I'll just go down the list. Scotty, you are next on the list.
Okay, here I'll give you some video for fun. Got to give you my nice ocean background.
Yeah, right in Arizona. That's your Arizona ocean front.
So I guess the major accomplishment today, other than non-weather station work, was it got the magnetometer build started. All the parts are purchased. We're waiting for them to show up. The boards are out for fab. We should have, with any luck, if we don't get stuck on any parts that didn't come in or are out of stock, which so far there are none that we know of, we should have boards by the end of the month. So now the next struggle is I got to get the test bed set up so that I can test them, so that we can send them out to people working instead of maybe working. So that's kind of the accomplishment here this week, and continuing on the data engine as usual, but mostly trying to get the magnetometer out the door.
Buddy, are they going to build the test units by hand?
They're going to, we're going to use a solder stencil to put the solder paste on. Then they're going, and there's only one of them because there's no parts on the back. And then they're going to place the parts by hand, and then they're going to reflow the parts through the oven. So
you do that with an oven or with a plate, or?
No, it's an oven. This is they've got big machines. So in fact, they would do the pick and place also automatically, except for 25 boards, it's not worth it, because then we'd have to pay machine setup and it would cost more than the boards. So we do the small volumes like this, and then realistically, even the large volumes made in USA is pretty expensive. So we're looking at, and I think, John, you were going to send me something on a Chinese manufacturer. Was it you that was going to send that to me?
Yes, that's correct. And I dropped the ball and I got to do my homework, but I'll have that during the meeting here.
Okay. And we have a
busy since we hung up. So,
so we're going to have a duel of either Chinese offshore manufacturing or European offshore manufacturing, because Tappers used a Hungarian outfit before to good extent. And so we'll see how that works. I like them because you have much less chance of having your design appropriated, shall we say, if you send it to someplace other than China. So I've heard rumors of people that send their design out to be engineered and built in China, and they see their product up on eBay before they even get their prototypes. So we discussed this before. Maybe their price will be cheaper than what we can make it for. We should just buy it from them. Which is one
I guess. Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, we'll be continuing to investigate the mass production aspect of it. And oh, and by the way, I just talked to Kai at QEX, and he's got an article scheduled for the May-June issue of QEX on the magnetometer. So it's going to be another one of my SDR columns.
That's great.
He's recruiting it for me and saying, oh, well, I think I can get it out by the end of the month. He's saying, oh, don't worry about it. It's not going to be till the May-June issue. So you have like till March to do it. So I said, well, that's good, because then Taproot will probably have production boards by March, or by May or June. So
that'll be really good.
You good?
Great. Bill, AB4EJ.
Okay, very good. Well, I reported this to the Case Western group this morning. I'll report it to this group now. This week's activity was to take the complete localhost package, not the simulator, but the localhost package that will become part of the Tangerine, and port it so it would run on the Raspberry Pi 4B. So I got that working and ran it for a couple of days, and it ran fine, produced all the right results, uploaded to Whisper and FT8, and I should say PSK Reporter, produced the right files, which I opened up in HDF View, and they look reasonable, and produced app snapshot or output and all those things. So, and interestingly enough, it looks like the CPU utilization when the thing is running all those modes is actually a little bit less on the Raspberry Pi than it is on the Odroid N2, which kind of surprised me because they talk about, oh, the Odroid N2 is so hot and all this and that, and it's, well, for this application anyway, it appears to be a little bit slower than the Raspberry Pi, just by a few percent of CPU utilization. So, but what it tells us is that we have the flexibility to use either the Odroid or the Raspberry Pi, and I'm working with Dan, N4XWE. He is going to be the person in charge of developing the installation scripts. So we will have one of those for the Odroid and one of them for the Raspberry Pi. On a side note, it looks like the Raspberry Pi is actually easier to get your hands on than the Odroid because they discontinued making the N2, and their initial run of N2 Pluses sold out immediately and won't be, no more cards will be available until October. So I'm still going to use that as my development platform for the time being, but we do have the flexibility to run on either box. Now, one thing I have not tested is I have not tried to install the package onto an i86 class of machine. As you know, both the Raspberry Pi and the Odroid use the ARM architecture. So that is something that I can do. I have the facilities here to do that using VMware, but I don't consider that necessarily a high priority because everybody has been saying all along they want to make a Tangerine have a SBC in its small single board computer. So that's our first architecture. But the only problem I've found that you run into is between these different things is a lot of the stuff has got to be compiled, and it requires different compiler flags because some of the CPUs have slightly different things enabled in them. So that's a little bit of a trial and error process till you get everything to compile. But anyway, so good progress is going on that. The next thing I'm going to do is build out the rest of the features and start going into some additional debugging. And there's a little bit of a few things you got to do involving software races, like if you click two buttons on that nice web interface, clickety-click, clickety-click that fast, sometimes it will lose its connection to the main control because, I don't know, some port didn't close fast enough before it tried to open it again, or some such thing like that. But anyway, it's the kind of thing that only is going to be discovered by extensive testing. So, you know, part of the plan is to have a pretty extensive user acceptance testing. We'll find out, you know, kind of the phase 3 clinical trials of the Tangerine with having lots of users try it. So back to you.
Thanks, Bill. That sounds really excellent. That's super encouraging about the performance on the Raspberry Pi too, because that would bring down the cost significantly and I think make things much more accessible. I think in general, people are a lot more familiar with Raspberry Pis than the Odroids. That's really good. All right, let's see. Next, let's go over to Carl, K9LA.
Well, good afternoon to everyone. I'm just here to listen to the great efforts that are going on.
Thanks, Carl, but I believe you will be speaking at the October 1st biweekly telecon about ray tracing, right?
Yes.
Great. So we'll have a presentation from Carl at the next biweekly telecon. Wonderful. Next on the list, let's see. We have let's go to David Mcgowan, N1HAC. Are you there, Dave Mcgowan? Well, maybe we'll come back to him. How about Steve Serwin, WA5FRF?
Well, hi, good afternoon, everybody. I'm coming to the conclusion that the fabric of the universe is degrading. You see, because space and time got all started at the Big Bang, and time in particular was created so everything wouldn't happen at once. And that's not working very well anymore. I had big hardware project to finish, both of those papers for the written and the presentation to do, plus my antenna course. So it's just been wild. While we were there, we went from 93 to 40 in like 6 hours. That front came in New Mexico. So I put on my warmest short sleeve shirt, went back to work. Gosh, it was cold. Actually, I had 4 shirts on. It was still cold. Anyways, a 53 degree drop in temperature in less than a day. It was pretty wild. Anyway, the course went out.
Come over to us. We'll take it.
Yeah, no kidding. But anyway, the antenna course went fine. Really, really bright, motivated, smart group of guys. I think the next thing I would like to look into is doing some timing experiments with multiple receivers separated by as much distance as I can get using an SDR at the remote location, and somehow trying to take into account the time delay through the internet. I won't be able to get precise timing. I don't think I could ever, or at least I don't know yet, how I could calibrate out the unknown time delay, say between here and North Carolina over the internet. There might be a way. Maybe if I use my own transmitter with the, there might be a way. Anyway, I haven't thought about it much, but the main thing I wanted to look at was some pulse distortion, nonlinearities that I've seen on these timing ticks, in particular frequency doubling, and see if it happens in more than one direction, more than one location at the same time, different times. Just trying to learn some more about it. Open to suggestions, but that's about it from here. It's all the news that's fit to print.
That sounds really good, Steve. I am hoping to get some sort of a precision frequency measurement / grape type station here at Scranton in the near future. If we are able to do that, we would love to help you with that project, as I'm sure Kristina would as well, and the case people.
That would be cool. My radio, there's several ways of doing remote control over the radios. My ICOM has this RSVA1 software, which makes it pretty easy. Mm-hmm. Both my R8600 and the 7610 work that way. But beyond that, there's third-party software packages like remote hams and other things that you can do remote control of any radio, whether it's set up to do it or not, even an old analog radio.
Yeah. What I'd like to do, there's an undergraduate student who might be interested in working on this project. If he is, I'd probably task him with setting this sort of thing up and working with you. But we'll see if that actually comes to fruition.
That would be cool.
Yeah, that sounds great. All right. So next, why don't we go to the lowly country doctor, Dr. David Kasdan.
Country doctor reporting in. And the background here is the mostly completed renovation of W8EDU. So say nice things to John. This has really been his task. He did all the woodworking for us. I can give a quick video tour if you want, but it's really pretty nice. Thought occurred to me as we are deploying 10 megahertz WWV beacons. Perhaps we could co-locate with them 30-meter whisper transmitters. We have at least 3 whisper receivers distributed around Fort Collins. And it's kind of like doing a back survey. It might be useful to have amplitude information both directions from all of those stations. So that's mostly what I have to report. Maybe let's just have that in our notes.
That sounds great, David. Thank you very much. And I think we are to wish you a Happy New Year as well, right? Yes. Okay. Excellent. Next, let's go to Christina, Kda Oxt.
Hey guys, let's see. Can I share my screen here?
Hi, how you doing?
Yes.
All right. Okay, so on Monday I did a balloon sat launch with some friends, and I had a secondary payload on it that I have here. So this went up to 112,000 feet. Got a battery pack, Raspberry Pi, RTL SDR, standard RTL antenna, which probably is the thing that I would improve if I were to do it again. This payload weighed about 3/4 of a pound, worked really well. I think could be a template for future HamSCI balloon sat experiments. I had it taking digital RF data of the bit of the lower end of the FM broadcast spectrum with the idea of looking for broadcast stations, but I have not been able to get the hang of figuring things out with digital RF data. So if anybody is familiar with that format and wants to give me a hand, that'd be cool. But anyway, so that was a thing. If anyone's interested in balloon sat experiments, I now have some more tips to disseminate. And hopefully we'll get a chance to do some in the future under the auspices of HamSCI. I think it's a really good scope for like a senior project kind of thing.
Can you share the picture of the crown up in the?
Oh, the primary payload? Yeah, I can do what I did before because I showed the Thursday morning people. So the primary payload for this, I have a friend who's a full-time YouTuber, and she won a beauty pageant a while ago, and around April she sent me a message about like how hard would it be to put my pageant crown in space, and I was like, well, balloon sats aren't actually that hard, so I congratulate her on her follow through. There it is.
Wow, that's
But,
impressive.
yeah, it's hilarious. It did not survive apogee though. The crown is somewhere in a field in central Ohio. But it was a fun way to spend a day.
That was her crowning achievement?
It was her crowning achievement. Oh God, I gotta tell her to get that in the video. Jeez.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
So
that's item one.
when you get all of this done, if you or her want to write up a blog post for the HamSCI website, I think that would be very nice.
Yeah, sure. There'll be a YouTube video, but I don't know if it's really our style. I don't know if I'm gonna get a chance to play with this data meaningfully, but it is on Zenodo if anyone's interested.
If you think it's appropriate.
Yeah. If we get a chance to look at that, I'm hoping that we'll be able to check it, and if it has anything of value, we can make that into a little HamSCI talk.
Yeah.
But I'll let you know. But in the meantime, here's the data from the flight computer, and you've got I think a pretty good view of the tropopause and things like that on that temperature plot. So
Yeah.
anyhow, it was a fun time, but I think about half the people here have already seen it. The other item that I wanted to report that's sort of a nascent thing is I'm now advising some mechanical engineering senior project students, 2 in Cleveland, 1 in Bermuda. And their senior project is to do APRS buoys. There was one that was launched by a club in San Diego. And I'm trying to see if maybe ARDC could give them some support or something like that to do a couple of prototypes. Because the original one that group did worked pretty well for a week. It was supposed to work for 6 months, but it probably wasn't watertight. So we're gonna try and do a prototype for it. And I'm currently looking at avenues for funding so that it can be an actual APRS station and not just a PVCT. But the idea would be that eventually we could scale that up to some sort of program where ham radio clubs could build these from a kit, and then we could give them to research vessels to launch and do APRS at sea. So that's currently being developed. Any ideas for that are welcomed. Any ideas for ham radio buoys in general. And yeah, just a couple things to keep in the back of your mind.
Well, I know that like we were just looking at the total electron content maps earlier today, and there's a big gap over the Atlantic Ocean.
That's the idea.
So I mean, if we can co-locate like TEC measurements and that, I think that would be extremely valuable. I mean, in some ways, like if you were able to put TEC measurements on these buoys, like, and then have the ham radio as a secondary payload, it may actually be easier to get it funded.
Oh, that's an interesting thought.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to ask you, or I wanted to talk to you at some point, how is the paper coming?
So the thing is, I'm still trying to figure out correlation distance stuff. Aiden's been busy, so I've been in the process of rebuilding all of our stuff in a MATLAB code base. I've got one bug I'm tracking down.
Yeah.
And what I've been trying to do is take the distance for the midpoint that FARLAP generates and evaluate the changing correlation on a 5-minute basis, which is a fairly computationally intensive task.
Yeah.
So that's where I've been with that. I took some time off to deal with the balloon project.
Yeah.
But then I've also got, I'm trying to get a meeting in the next couple of weeks with Bill Lyles, because he sent me a thesis from a student that was talking about ways of doing correlation distances for ionosons.
Yeah.
And that was Nico, I forget his last name. But it's pretty good. I think it may be applicable, but I only got a chance to start digging into it last night.
Yeah.
The alternative is, I mean, I think I don't know. I think the method that I'm working on right now for the correlation distances is something that I could work on, or if we want to just 80-20 this, I can probably submit it with just the distances between the stations and acknowledge that that's sort of a first pass approach.
Yeah.
It's a letters paper. I feel like that's the kind of thing where if somebody wants that changed in the peer review process, that may actually be the place to catch it.
That is very
I'm ready
possible.
to move on. I'm ready to move on to other things besides that paper.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And that is in some ways very reasonable to get something sent out for review. And then once the reviewers review it, then you kind of know what needs to be done.
Yeah, kind of get a baseline.
Yeah.
Well, if you're okay with that, then I think that may be what I do, because I think it's pretty much. We can talk about it more offline if you want.
Yeah, let's talk about it a little more offline. The other thing I want you to think about, Dev, my postdoc, he's been spinning his wheels a bit with the trying to get the ionosond system up and running, and he is really chomping at the bit to actually work with with data and not just try to collect it. And so I'm wondering if there's enough, I think the answer is yes, but I'm wondering if there's enough room with the Doppler shift data you've been collecting to have him work on it too, and and split up the tasks a bit so that he might be able to get some papers out of that as well.
Yeah, I don't see why not. Which pile?
Well, and that's the thing, because I think from talking with Steve Serwin, and with you, there's actually quite a bit of analysis to do. And so and Dev, his strength is more in doing FARLAP and MATLAB and much less in actual and engineering. He's much more, he's got his PhD in ionospheric physics. So if we split things up correctly, it may actually help if we put more of our scientific effort just focusing on the data product of the low-cost personal space weather station. That may actually pay off better than trying to split people up like this.
I'd offer to give my 3 different frequencies to him if he wants them, because I've got quite a bit of data. So
yeah, we have a few different data sets, and it's there's a few the administrative overhead of getting those things into automatic upload and getting all of that stuff set up. The only reason that hasn't gotten done is because I don't have an end user, So if he's interested, then that's something I could make more of a priority of getting that set up so that he would get the data every day.
That might help. I think he would be much happier with that, and that might help the whole project along in general, from the personal space weather station project in general, because what we really need are peer-reviewed publications, and lots of them, showing good science. And we have Dev now for about another 1.5 years, and what he really wants to get, he wants to sink his teeth into some data and solve some ionospheric physics problems.
Well, tell you what, since I don't want to clutter up your schedule, we could meet and talk about it, or we could make it a topic for next Thursday's Telecon
That sounds really good.
and talk
It might
about
be-
that specifically and like where I think we're hitting the point where we need to take a step back and have a little bit of a strategy chat.
Are you available on Monday mornings at like 9 a.m. I think?
Yeah, I can do that.
Because that's when I normally meet with Dev, and Bill Lyles usually comes too. So you'd be able to talk to Dev, Bill Lyles, and me all at the same time, and it would not affect my schedule.
Yeah, that'd be good. All right.
Okay.
Just send me a Zoom link and we'll talk about that stuff.
That sounds really good.
And I think probably, yeah, I think maybe I will 80-20 it with the festival paper. It's turning into a bit of an albatross. And if, you know, if the peer reviewers look at it and give me some feedback, then I'm happy to add things.
To help fix it, yeah.
But I don't want to get
will-
too much further down the rabbit hole of trying to anticipate what people will want.
Yeah,
I think it's better if I just get the feedback. Okay, cool. Thank you.
great.
All right, back to net.
All right. So, let's see. Next, why don't we go to Dave Witten, KD0EAG.
Oh.
Hey, Dave. Did we?
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I just remembered to poke my nose in here. I've had some interruptions, but I wanted to see what y'all were up to. I don't know what else I have to contribute, but just wanted to, if there's any questions that I can address in any way, let me know.
Thank you very
But
much, Dave. I think we're very happy right now with where things are going with the magnetometer and things like that. So
we're especially Julius is collecting data. I think Yeoman is probably also. So hopefully we'll have more to look at soon.
that will be very good. Thank you very much, David. Great. Jay, WB8SBI, go ahead.
Now, hello, everybody from the northern suburbs of Detroit. Nothing much, just tuned in as usual, joined a little late. So I missed the first several minutes, but I had a higher priority phone call. Nathaniel, I really enjoyed your participation in the recent Tapper DCC conference. That was everything your team pulled together. It was really, really interesting. And the whole DCC conference was really, really cool also. Tremendously enjoyed that. And looking forward to your next HamSCI, the conference that you host. Other than that, 7-3 to all. Take care.
Thank you so much, Jay. Yeah, I appreciate it. And you know, it all works because there are just so many people who are very passionate about all of this. So thank you. All right. Next, let's go to John Gibbons, N8OBJ.
Yeah, it's been a kind of a busy week. The Tapper conference had a good takeaway on the GPSs. That sawtooth correction thing that John Ackerman was talking about is critical for doing the GPS DO. Unfortunately, his solution might be pushing me out of my price range, but I was chatting with Bill Engelke and with Sky about that, and we're going to look at what we can do down the road for utilizing what they're coming up with, maybe come up with a low-cost version. This week I've been focusing on writing actually extracting the code I put into FLDigi for the data collection engine. And right now I'm working on a module that pulls out all the metadata that's stored in my file structure such that you can pop it into the header of a CSV file every day. My goal is to have that as a callable subroutine that then goes into a data collection engine I'm going to be writing that you feed it, for example, either the temperature data or the magnetometer data, and it puts a timestamp on it and sorts and does the file stuff in the header and all that stuff automatically. I'm coordinating that with a 1 PPS IO pin on the Raspberry Pi so you can coordinate and synchronize the time stamping and time collection so it's on a synchronized clock. But what I'm doing is creating modules that can be reused, and I was speaking with Bill and Scotty this morning. We're going to have some code reviews amongst ourselves such that we can have a module that I create that basically plugs into somebody else's work, and they provide a data path into my engine, and it's done.
Mm-hmm.
And it also gives a common format that Bill can work with, so he's not having to decode different people's code. It's all coming from one place. So that's my goal right now. And we also discussed about coming up with some documents concerning hardware document interfaces for, you know, pinout and things like that, because I'm at the point now with the Gen 2, Grape 2, or Grape 1 Gen 2 that I need that. I have to make some decisions about the GPS DO on there I'm going to need, because I need a couple of things off of it. And it sounds like I'm compatible with what Scotty's doing. But we're looking pretty good. Other than that, not a whole lot to report, I guess. Back to net.
That sounds really good, John. I like that. I like that idea of, yeah, basically having that modular software layer where that acts as an interface between the instruments and what Bill Engelke is doing.
Yeah, basically I want to provide it's going to be the top level data collection program and the extraction of the metadata that's stored in my file structure. And I have a Python program that goes through, and when you run it, it creates the entire file structure and populates all of those things correctly, such that the program can find them. So everybody will have the same file structure. It'll be pulled out with the same data engine, populated into the header with the same program. So it should give Bill minimal headaches as to once he writes the way, or if I need to tweak it a little bit, I can do that now. So he has a common interface to work from, and he only has to do it once.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the part I think is the most valuable, because everybody can write their own code, but if we come up with something common, it makes Bill's job easier and we get done faster.
I really think we need to do that. I think we need that as many commonalities as possible.
Yeah.
And then I also think, I'm glad you're talking with John Ackerman too and Scotty, because I realize that the current clock module board that John is developing is probably too expensive for your application. But I am very curious to see if you, working with him and Scotty, could come up with a low-cost clock module that has a moderately priced GPS, single frequency GPS chip on there.
Yeah, in fact, if you look on my, actually, should light down a little bit here. If you look on my bench, right?
Both more integrated and less expensive than Leo Bodner.
Yeah, this thing right here I've got running is actually one of the Adafruit GPS modules that I built and designed a board already that plugs onto a Pi that allows me to create the Stratum 1 time reference for a network, which is what I'm planning on also implementing for the Raspberry Pi data collection engine. That gives us the timestamp, and then with the 1 PPS coming in on some different GPIO lines, we can then synchronize different data collection tasks that have grabbed IO pins for themselves on the Raspberry Pi. Because under Linux, if you grab a resource, it precludes any other resource from grabbing it. So I've got 3 pins now. One is for the system clock for the 1 PPS to create the Stratum 1 time standard. I got 2 other ones that my RF data engine is going to use, and then the other one is probably going to be for the magnetometer and temperature data, 1 PPS. So they'll all can run at the same time. So that's the architecture I'm working on, and Scotty and I are in violent agreement on how we're going to look at that.
Violent agreement.
Yeah.
That's always a good term.
And
Bill
has graciously offered to help me with some of the code, because as everybody probably doesn't know, I'm an analog design engineer by training. My specialty is electrometers, and here I am writing C code. So I take advice from anybody I can get it, especially with somebody experienced like Bill. So I'm looking forward to working with him on that to create this common module that is acceptable for everybody. Just plop it in, and then they provide a data path to it, and it's done.
Yeah.
So they should be able to use that on the Tangerine as well if I do my job right. So that's the goal.
That sounds great.
And Scotty, you should have in the chat link the jlcpcb.com. That's the board manufacturer.
I saw that. What I was looking for was a board assembler.
They also do assembly.
Okay, good. So
But
they can do the whole thing from Gerber's to finish.
yeah, and they have they have their own parts list. But the thing is amazing is the PC boards are unbelievably cheap. I've gotten 20 boards that were like 4 inches by 6 inches, 4 layers, phenomenal quality, and it cost me $4 plus shipping.
For $4 each or $4 for
$4 total. The shipping was 18 bucks by FedEx.
Yeah.
So,
well, these
I don't know if there's issues of proprietary issues with that. You certainly can ask, but anytime you're in time,
these are totally non-critical boards. They're 2-layer. There's no controlled impedances. There's no nothing on them. I mean, they're low speed.
But I have found their quality to be more than acceptable.
Well, when we buy 50 prototypes, they're $9 a piece.
This is going to be a whole lot cheaper.
Well, but that's only 50, and that includes the NRE. So really, you're paying probably $6 of NRE each, and then $3 for the board. So yeah, I expect that these boards would be. Well, I don't know how they can get as cheap as $4 for a lot, but I expect them to be down pushing $1 or less per board when we buy them in quantity.
Yeah. And
what we likely do is we'll buy 1,000, and then we'll build up 200 at a time, or maybe you'll even buy more than 1,000.
Well, you can tell right now if you go to their webpage, they basically have you get under the board outline the number of layers and the quantity and the thickness of the board, and they click quote and it gives it to you. It's real simple.
Yeah.
So, but like I said, that's a known quantity that I've used at Case and had good luck with.
So have you ever had them assemble boards for you?
I've never had them build them, no.
Okay. Because the outfit that we use in Europe will actually buy the parts for us too, and they buy so many parts, they get good deals on parts, so they can sometimes get, and you know, frankly, I don't care. You know, I don't want to see what you pay for parts. I don't care. Give me the dollar amount for each board.
But looking at the webpage here, it says 24-hour SMT assembly within stock of 30,000 plus SMD parts. So I suspect they could probably, other than the FPGA, they could probably cover everything you got.
Well, in the magnetometer, there's no FPGA. There's nothing that's really out of the ordinary.
If they're not populating that, that should be a quick turn for them.
Yeah, and the only odd part is the Raspberry Pi through-hole long tail.
Right.
And those are available in stock from the guy in the UK. So, and it's in the EU, so it's like that's actually better.
Yeah.
Than having them ship them over here.
Yeah.
Because I know it cost us more money for shipping than it did to buy the 50 connectors.
Yep.
That's just ridiculous.
Especially when they start adding the tariffs on there, it gets crazy.
Yeah, that doesn't even include tariffs. Fortunately, they were shipped DHL, so we didn't have tariffs. It was a small lot of 50 of them. So
yeah. But take a look at it, and like I said, I've had good luck with them. So
all right, thanks.
All right, let's go over to let's see, Zach, KJ4QLP.
Hey everybody! Nothing earth-shattering to report. I had a blast at Tapper DCC. Really enjoyed participating. I do have maybe one question about the low-cost personal space weather station, or the GRAPES. Is there a place where one might go to find like schematics and more info?
You're looking at them.
Yeah, I hesitate to bug people, right? I don't want to waste your time, but I am interested in kind of all of that, and think maybe there's a way we could set up a station here, or start a student project going, something along those lines, to get something up and running. That's kind of the genesis, or the very early stages idea I've had from listening to both talk at Tapper, but also just from this conversation. So maybe I'll pull that thread maybe on the listserv. But other than that, yeah, had a blast. I'm hoping to, I've been doing a little bit more with the attempts to separate O and X mode transmissions. I'm not sure, as always, I'm not sure I'm doing it right, but I'm definitely seeing something that makes a little more sense now. And it's actually based off some papers that I found on the HamSCI webpage. So thank you for that. So that's about it for me. Unless there's any questions about anything going on. Sorry, one last save round. There's a question at Tapper about selling the boards I'm working on through the Tapper website. Who would I talk to more about kind of what's involved in that process?
You can talk to me about that.
Scotty? Okay. Yeah, I might follow up with you offline just to see what all is involved and expected and that kind of process.
Sure.
Hey, Zach, I sent you my email in the chat window.
So awesome. Thank you very much.
And I can get some stuff to you about that. But yeah, I guess I'm the guy for the low-cost station.
Cool. Yeah, I like, if you need help with like board assembly and stuff like that, that's the kind of thing I like doing. I wouldn't say I'm an expert, but I like doing it. So and I'm willing to time into it.
I got to build up another 6 boards for you guys. So.
Zach, if you're free on Thursday mornings at 10, come join us for our Telecon. That's kind of our catch-all time to talk about stuff relating to the low-cost station.
Okay.
It's on
yeah.
the involved page.
In fact, if
I'm hoping that. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Is your email available? Because then we get you on the email list for the invite.
Actually, I'm already on it. You guys are nice enough to add me to it.
Okay.
Already, and I think I attended half of one so far. It turns out, though, they moved one of my work meetings to where it now conflicts. But I think that program is ending maybe in the next month or so, in which case I'll be freed up to participate. So, but yeah, I'm definitely, I really want to actually get on those calls because I think that everything you guys are talking about is super cool and I can talk more about it, but I have nothing of value to add. I want to learn more. So this is all great stuff.
Fantastic.
Thank you again for your help with our project students. They're planning on doing a first test tomorrow. And for those who are wondering, I've kind of got the RF nerd equivalent of bringing your knitting to a meeting going on here. I'm making coax connectors.
Awesome. Yeah, on that front, I did find Aiden shot me an email about using the new RTL SDRs that have the direct sampling features in them, and I just got a pair of them in the mail that I've at least fired up, but I haven't actually started doing anything meaningful with them. One thing that is really cool about them, though, is they have built-in headers for sharing the clock and the oscillators between them. So for getting phase coherence and things like that, it's a step in the right direction to where it's a little bit less hacky on the board. You still have to remove one tiny surface mount component, but it is vastly easier to now share the LOs between them. So that's kind of the path I'm thinking about exploring with this and the X and O mode separation.
Has anybody here used the SPI SDRs that have a fitting for an external 10 megahertz standard?
I have not.
No.
It's the only one I've been able to identify.
Zach, are those new RTL SDRs, are those like the new elect version 4 ones that are kind of rectangular?
Yeah, it was actually, I think it was a version 3 that I got from RTL SDR. I think it's actually the RTLSDR.com product line and not the new elect product line.
Yeah,
okay,
version 3 has direct input available.
Okay, yeah, I have that one.
Like
I've got two.
There you go, Kristina, and her video feed.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the one that I just now got on the air like a couple days ago and have started experimenting with.
Yeah, I saw they used to have these nice kits for $30 that included little telescoping antennas on Amazon with those, and yes, like that. And I went and looked for those the other day, and I didn't see the kits. You could still buy just the dongle, but I didn't see the whole kit anymore. So I was wondering if they're going to a newer generation, or I don't know.
You kind of have to scout around. You can buy direct from the New Elect site or the Amazon site, and there's always kind of options, but you're right, they're always kind of changing.
Yeah.
Or it's not the right combination of things that you're looking for in whatever new kit they're offering.
Right.
So I tend to just buy things kind of one-off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested. Basically, I want to replace the like $10,000 USRP that I'm fortunate enough to have because of work with something a little more useful in the price range at hand, like these RTL SDRs.
Yeah, I agree.
That's kind of the trajectory I'm on, but so far nothing super meaningful out of that work. It's all nights and weekends for me.
I agree.
So, but that's it for me. Thanks.
Thanks, Zach. That sounds great. Let's go to John, W4JKL.
Okay, well, I'm still here lurking in the background. Right now, I'm planning to participate at the user level and hoping that John doesn't bust my ham radio budget. So with that, I'll just say back to net and keep listening.
Thank you, John. Is this your first time on the net?
It's the first time on the Thursday. I was in just the other day on the Tangerine net. So I participated at I didn't participate, but I viewed the DCC conference, enjoyed that, and thought I would join HamSCI and just see what's going on. If I couldn't participate at the user level, I no longer have the skills to do anything beyond that. I'll put it that way. I'm a physicist and an electrical engineer, but in both cases, I'm obsolete. So I'll just leave it at that.
Which John was referring to about breaking your ham radio budget? Should I feel nervous?
Yes, you should.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
The pressure's on.
Hey, no pressure. Hey.
They're watching us.
They're watching you. Okay, 7-3s, guys.
Thank you so much, John. Pleasure having you here. And let's see, Mike Neruda, AA8K.
Thank you to Kristina for sharing that balloon telemetry with us. I was surprised to see that rate of climb so linear. Back to you, Nathaniel.
Thank you, Mike. Sounds good. And last but certainly not least, we come back to Dave Mcgowan, N1HAC.
Hello. Sorry, I was time sharing, not able to get back to the mic the first pass. But we're trying to get a system together, as I've mentioned before, to go up to Baffin Island, but we're kind of running out of time. I have a few niggly problems with the antenna, but we've run into a snag with the location in that it's right next to an AM station and a non-directional beacon in the same place. So I got to double notch the preamp and hope for the best. Maybe possible, we'll see. That's a little bit of a development project. But the primary thing that's holding us up right now is we're trying to use either USRP or an SDR Play receiver. Neither one is playing nice with a Raspberry Pi. And so we're not sure if we are going to be able to get the receiver ready for prime time. It's losing data, not running for a while. Things are hanging up and needing to be power cycled and all. So that's not good for a field receiver. If anyone has any experience running things like the USRP on a Raspberry Pi, it'd be interesting to know. We've been running the RTL SDR on the Pi ad nauseum, shall I say, with our AM Doppler project. So I know it's not the Pi that's the problem. We're running megahertz sampling off of that one. But we'll see. More shall be revealed, I guess. But either way, we'll also probably be working with these types of receivers for the Aero Vista CubeSat project that Phil mentioned during DCC, which we're involved with. Adding some ground stations to corroborate what the CubeSats are receiving. So I guess that's my status. Back to me.
That sounds great, Dave. It's sorry to hear about your woes with the Raspberry Pi compatibility and the AM transmitter and the NBB, but it sounds like you're moving along.
Yeah, I will say one of the things that we found in working with the AM Doppler receiver is you can't use a flash drive for as a hard drive for data storage. You have to use a real hard drive or a solid state drive. The thumb drives go out for powder periodically, and
Well, the problem is the write speed. The ones
well, the writes you can write quickly for a while, but then
it
it
bogs down.
goes stops.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Whereas, of course, the solid state
It's
drive
about
is designed to
about
be continuous.
2 to 4 megabytes, and all of a sudden it goes from 80 kilobytes a second down to 2.
Exactly.
And if you keep pushing it, you burn them out, because I've actually killed them doing that.
That too.
Yeah.
I just got a new backup drive. Oh, you can't see it because it's
a virtual drive.
it's a transparent backup drive. Anyway, it's a 5 terabyte portable drive for $130, and it's just unbelievable, the sizes and the span. It's supposed to be 120 to 130 megabytes per second. It's a rotating drive because it's a third the price of an equivalent SSD or less.
Right.
It just occurred to me, I got the new computer here and I got all these projects on it and I have no backups of them, and it's like, ooh, this is not a good thing. So we're going to take care of that today.
Can you put a link to that for that drive in the chat window?
Sure.
Thank you.
I got it on Amazon.
Oh.
Yeah, also, hold it up in front of your chest and let's see if it makes it through.
There you go.
There you go.
Yeah.
It's called a My Passport Ultra.
Oh, the Passport. Yeah, Micro Center has those.
But it's an Ultra, so it has a USB-C connector on it. So it's faster.
Yeah, much faster.
Yeah.
Oh, Bill's got one. Look at that.
Yeah.
You muted, Bill.
I don't have the fast one. I don't have a need for that, but they are nice.
Yeah, I've got like stacks of them scattered throughout my house.
Yeah.
Various.
The old ones are doorstops.
So
I get very unhappy when I lose my label maker because then I don't know what's on any of these.
Let's see. Did that come through? Can anybody follow that link? Oh, sorry, I sent that privately. How about we send it to everyone?
Oh, I got it.
There we go.
Yep. That's nice.
There's a Seagate one that's cheaper, but it's a USB 3 instead of a USB-C. But it's about $115 for 5 terabytes.
Cool.
And they've got really good CNET ratings, so I picked this one because it has a USB-C port on it.
Yeah, that's nice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I got something else to show you, Nathaniel. I guess I could share my screen, right?
Yep.
Let's see.
I like how you can order it in either blue or silver too.
Silver is the Mac version, and blue is the PC version.
Oh. Because there's really a difference.
There is. Well, there's not really, but it comes pre-formatted for the right one if you buy it the right color. Because I wanted to buy a silver one, and every time I click silver, it switches it to Mac version, and it's like, no.
The Mac is more expensive.
Yeah, it is. Anyway, this is the, I forget who put this. I think someone put this link up on the Tangerine SDR list, and it's their fault that I bought one because somebody put it up on the list. This uses a 2208 ADC, 16-bit ADC, direct sampling, and they also put an RTL SDR chip on the board also. So you get both the direct sampling up to 32 megs, and then you get the RTL from 32 meg up to 1.8 gig.
Yeah, the tuner chip from the RTL.
Tuner chip, right? The RTL 820 or whatever they call it. So you can go down here and look and see. So I like
that. It brings up a question that came up the other day. Does anyone know of one of these inexpensive SDRs that'll go above the 1.8 gigahertz, specifically into the 22 gigahertz S-band range?
Oh, not to 22. The Lime SDR will go up to 12 gig, I believe. But not 22.
Oh, right. Yeah, no, it's 2.2 gig.
Oh, 2.2.
Yeah. So just
Yeah,
above what these guys do. We're
Look at
working on a
look at
CubeSat with an S-band downlink that.
Look at the Lime SDR.
Yeah, good point.
There's because I know they
Never
have some
burn
that go up that
computers.
high.
Never burn computers.
Yeah, no, do you know what
Unlike
that means, Dave? Never burn.
I don't know what they're talking about. Unlike some finish.
Is that like don't throw them in
Semi-finished.
fire or something?
I don't know.
Also,
Yeah,
the PCB clock and PLO are shielded by a shield.
Wow, what else would you use a shield for? I think by burning the PC, he means overload it.
Yeah, overheat it.
Overclock it.
About.
Overheat it, yeah, probably by overloading it.
Overclocking
Well, that
it.
means it's not properly designed if you can do that.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Well, a lot of
I'll
these,
try this
a lot of folks are really.
Yeah, and this has a, whoops, I clicked on this. This has a Cypress part for its USB 3 interface, and there's no FPGA on board. Because I mean, it's only 190 bucks, with the case and everything. So I'm curious to see how exactly. I mean, it seems like it's going to just stream raw IQ data, or perhaps it could filter to some extent. But I think it's going to be pretty limited in what it can do, and it looks like it at 32 meg, it's going to have to clock at 64 meg if it covers up to 32 meg. So that's half the clock speed we do, but he doesn't have an FPGA, so I don't know how he's going to do. You know, can you do decimation and filtering in a part like the Cypress USB 3 part? I don't know. I don't think there's enough horsepower there to do that. So I think he's depending upon the attached PC to do that.
Might be a marketing breakthrough.
Well,
No.
hence the concern about overheating your computer. If you have to run your computer overclocked in order to be able to process the data coming off this thing.
Right, or you might have to have like an i9 4 gigahertz processor to make the thing work. Oops, here we go again.
How do you get data out of this thing? Does it come out via gigabit Ethernet, or do they say
USB 3?
Okay, oh, USB 3. Okay, I see it now. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so I would, John, when you said marketing breakthrough, yeah,
Like marketing bits.
I remember the this ad actually appeared in, I was going to see if I could find the ad and put it up here because it's actually hysterically funny. It was an ad that appeared in, I think, the New York Times Sunday section in their stuff for sale. And what it was a TV antenna, but instead of having rabbit ears, it looked like a dish. And it had all these ridiculous claims about what it could do. And it would say like, uses proven RF technology, pulls signals right out of the air. You pay no cable fees because you're not using cable. It's just ridiculous things. And it was a whole page of these bullet items that were so intuitively obvious. And it was like $9.95. Oh, but wait, for $1 more, you can buy two. It was one of those promo things.
And it's all true, right?
It's all true, but it's like pull signals directly out of the air. Well, yeah, duh. And then it says, my favorite one was legal in all 50 states.
Again, all true.
All true.
But get fees, they give you the second one free with a separate handling fee.
That's right. No,
What?
$10.
That is funny. Well, I think we are right around 4 o'clock here.
Yep.
So I think this is a pretty good meeting today.
Oh, I did want to say to Christina, I was impressed that the balloon got up to nearly 35 kilometers. I haven't seen a burster go that high before. That's where our scientific balloons fly.
Yeah, we probably, I think if we had put a little less helium in it or had given it more reassuring paths to get more skin oil on it, it might have burst earlier. And if it had, maybe we wouldn't have had such, or more helium, maybe we wouldn't have had a quite as violent a time at apogee. But the video from that is really something, because everything, it's an object lesson in the dangers of tethers in space. My flash drive came out and the primary payload didn't make it, so.
Oh boy.
But yeah, it went pretty high. I'm not sure. Yeah, apparently it's only rated for 100, so it went up to 112,000 feet.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
higher than we expected for
you
sure.
needed more of the handyman secret weapon.
Yeah.
Duct
Yeah, we used a lot of electrical
tape
for that one. The kit that we used is a wooden frame, and I've done one balloon sat launch before this, and we did the beer cooler method, and this was much better. I would definitely recommend it. So.
Yeah, we had a program that we called Green Cube at Dartmouth, where this was Christina Lynch was flying CubeSat format payloads on bursters, and good way to get the undergraduates involved.
Yeah, you can do it. You can do it on a budget, and it's a tremendous amount of fun.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's such a leap from that to a CubeSat, but it's nice to see the barriers to entry going down more and more all the time.
Right. Well, I was impressed. Was it Bill Lyles who does the little balloons on Mylar?
Oh, WB80LK.
Yeah, uses the Mylar birthday balloons.
Yeah, the picosats. Those ones go far. Well, and the we did use for the APRS tracker, I think the same thing they use for the picosats, which is the Strato track, and the fellow who designed that from High Altitude Science was the sponsor of the YouTube video, so he was there with us. So we picked up all kinds of little tidbits, like for example those you know those tables that you can get that's like a briefcase form factor when you fold it up?
Yep.
Just get one, set it up in the field. And I'm like, oh man, that would have been good the time that I was soldering on the ground, you know, the last time I did this. So just stuff like that, you know, electrical tape it, put an annunciator on it so that it beeps at you so you can find it when it lands.
I never would have thought of using that as a field bench.
Yeah, exactly. You know, honestly, I have a whole list at this point of stuff, because I think you learn more every time you do it.
Right.
I agree.
Just that list would be worth publishing, you know, somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, at some point, it definitely will be.
So Christina, as I said, if you want to just dump it on a page on the HamSCI site.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, just balloon sat experiments and things. I can certainly
or even
I can
just
do a little write up of the payload and be like, you can
preprint
take this,
server.
but it
Put
needs
it
more
up on the
antenna.
preprint server.
Yeah.
so it'd be field ham radio guide, you know, tips for doing stuff out in the field.
Yep.
So this is my new antenna here. I'm going to sell my tower, and I'm going to use one of these.
There's something else, Scotty. I looked up the RX888 SDR on eBay, and that same system that you were just showing for $194. You can also pay $1,990 for the same thing if you wish.
I bought my radio a week ago from that seller. And I go to eBay and I click on purchases and I click on the very same thing because it says you want to buy again, right? And it's $2,000.
Huh.
So
That's because he's run out.
It says he has some left.
Well, it's his one. It's his own one.
Oh, have any of you seen these advertisements on the internet for these laptop screens that clip to your laptop and then you get like 2 additional screens?
I've seen them.
I have one.
I've seen them in use.
My laptop, but I haven't one see one that clips on, and then it was used USB 3 or something.
Yeah, USB-C, and then it has like wings that come
Oh
out.
yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. A reasonable price. I've seen some like listed for $300 and $400. I'm like, okay, it seems like if you pay that amount of money, you should get something that is pretty good. But then I saw one that was advertised for $30, and it looked exactly the same. And
Get what you paid for.
well, I don't know. I was like, I know this is a terrible idea. I know I'm probably throwing away my money, but I just had to try it. So I ordered one the other day. It hasn't come in yet, but maybe by next year, a year or two from now, it'll show up at my door.
Yeah, the cardboard picture of it.
Yeah, I thought maybe like I'll have a nice poster advertisement.
$30.
They're selfie displays. They're mirrors.
Yeah. Right.
Something like that happened to us. My wife found a thing on a website. She wanted to get our niece this thing that comes from Disney. It's about a 2-foot tall ceramic painted Christmas tree with all the Disney characters on it, and it rotates and plays music and all this stuff. Really kitschy. Well, to buy it from Disney is normally over $200. So she found it someplace coming directly from China for $100. So I thought, well, that's probably where they get them anyway. So maybe this seller in China is getting them from the factory. So we ordered this thing, and what they sent us after, I don't know, 6 or 8 weeks was a little tree about this tall made out of paper. And the outside of the package says value for customs $5. And so this is what they charged $100 for. Well, fortunately, we had bought it using MasterCard, and MasterCard hammered these guys, and we got our money back. So
Wow.
they wanted me to ship it back too, and to ship this thing back to China was $15.
Oh.
I figured $30 is, is low enough that if I get,
it'll give you a good story you can tell your children for years.
We saw this on Amazon. It was Nona wanted a new embroidery sewing machine.
Mm-hmm.
And so she found one of these that was like $800 or something, and you could load discs into it, and you could do all kind of embroidery on cloth, right, from files. And there was even software that you could design the designs and then print them on your shirt.
Mm-hmm.
But all the machines, I mean, they cost $700 or $800. She found one on Amazon for $30 or $20, I think it was. And we're going like, no. And I mean, it had a picture of it. It had the model number. Everything was exactly the same. So we said, what the heck? We got nothing to lose. We bought it. And we waited, and we waited, and we waited. They charged us the $20, and we never got anything. And so finally, we just had to file for a refund. But it was a scam that Amazon got stuck in. And
there was a article I read yesterday or the day before about scams on Amazon, and that Amazon really hasn't put forth the corporate effort to crack down on people who not only do these scams, but also that post false reviews. And one of the leading critics was a guy who used to head the department at Amazon in charge of that. And he said, look, I only had at the peak 20 people to do all of this work for all the hundreds of thousands and millions of items out there. So essentially, Amazon, you can complain all you want. It's not really going to do any good. And yeah, when you get these knockoffs, they are coming from China, and they're putting legitimate sellers and retailers, they're hurting because of that. And it's a serious problem, and Amazon just isn't doing anything about it.
USB thumb drives is another example. I was looking for a big thumb drive, and I found a ways back, I found a 512 meg thumb drive, which that's 512 meg. That was it was 512 gig. It was half a terabyte because it was huge, and all the other ones were like $800 to $900 to buy this largest size thumb drive. And then you go on Amazon, you find them for like $30, $40. Same, it's not the same brand, but it's a half a terabyte SSD USB drive. And then you go read the comments and you find out that they aren't half a terabyte. You get up to, 8 gig and then they crash because they're only little bitty drives put in a big case with the nice lettering on it. I mean, you get your money back, but it's a big hassle.
Yeah. Well, I have to go too now.
I got to run.
Take care.
Very nice.
John Gibbons got there.
Yeah. I'm afraid I have to go and I need to take the Zoom account with me because I need to use it to go talk to Steve.
Did you get yours, Nathaniel?
What's that? What is that from?
The WWV 0?
No, I don't think I got that. But I don't know that I.
Were you not out there for the festival?
No. Right.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
So no, I don't get that distinction.
David should have gotten one.
Yeah.
I got one.
I need to go, and this may end up killing the whole conversation.
Okay.
All right. Later.
73.
Well, 73 all.
Bye,
Take care.
everybody.
73, everybody.